welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed Khan. Today we're talking about two very important stories for us. The first one has to do with the Interior Minister's attack. There was an assassination attempt on the Interior Minister, and there have been some very troubling reports emanating after the capture of the assailant. We'll be talking about that in detail and all the facets of this unfortunate incident. Our second topic is to do with Kashmir, and a professor among 10 people have been killed by Indian troops in held Kashmir, and the situation in the valley is as tense as ever, and a number of people have been injured as a result of indiscriminate firing by the security forces of India. And we'll talk about that as well. Let's begin our conversation. I'd like to introduce our guests in the studio. Joining me for the conversation today, we have, first of all, Jveed Sadiq Saab, and joining him, we have auon Sahi. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Jveed Saab, let's start with the very unfortunate incident and attack on the Interior Minister. In a preliminary report that was sent to the Punjab Chief Secretary, the Narwal Deputy Commissioner reported that the suspect had identified himself as Abid Hussain and showed his affiliation with Tehreek-e-Labbaik, according to the DC's letter, sir. What does that really show?
I think it's very unfortunate if the religious differences sneak into politics. That will be very bad. That will be a very ominous thing for Pakistan's politics, because that could trigger a series of violent events in politics. It could also be influencing the election itself as an exercise. Therefore, I think this is a condemnable act. And Mr. Ahson Iqbal, the Interior Minister, is known as a very, very, I think, upright man, and is a very well educated. He's been a professor, a teacher, and an educationist. And I think we have never heard about him that he has said anything to that effect that actually brings into suspicion or brings into question his affiliation or his political, his religious affiliations or religious credo or belief. So I think that this is very unfortunate. And, you know, previously again, this has been used as a weapon against political opponents. And the governor of Punjab, former governor of Punjab, was assassinated by one of his guards. And we still have the impact of that unfortunate episode on our politics. So I think it must be avoided, and we must not allow these kind of the religious affiliations or religious conviction to come into politics. And if that happens, that will be very dangerous for Pakistan's politics.
Yes, sir. Politics aside, sir, but overall it would have a devastating effect on the social fabric of the country as well. So that is something even beyond politics. It will destroy the complete social fabric of the country.
So you could blame your political rival on the basis of religion, on the basis of his beliefs, political beliefs, and it will be very easy to target him. And this is very sad. I think we must avoid, all the political parties must get together, and they must try to shun these kind of tendencies so that Pakistan's politics remains a political game rather than a murky game of politics and religion.
Well, very unfortunate, sir, but that's how things are in Pakistan today. What is your reading of the situation? How would you, as a journalist, when you heard the story, what was your reaction, and what does it mean to you?
It's a very disturbing event, and we need to see it closely, because blasphemy has been becoming a new tool to radicalize the society. We have seen over the years that from last 1 decade or so, the blasphemy is being used, and especially in central Punjab. If you look the pattern, you would see like almost 90% of the blasphemy cases, they are being happening in the central Punjab. Lahore, its surrounding, Sialkot. I have covered so many events, and you would people, they use blasphemy to settle their scores. They use blasphemy to capture the lands of the poor, and there's so much into it. You know, I would say that this is, once again, this is the failure of the rate of the state. We need to, we have seen like there are a group of people sitting right on the face of Islamabad for 1 month or so, and they were using almost they were using all those, kind of patterns, and they were using all those platforms to disseminate messages around, blasphemy. And they even, government, they said that it was a clerical. I'm talking about that, that law regarding, election law, basically.
Yes.
And there was nothing big change in that. They said it's a clerical mistake, and then they corrected it.
Yes.
But a mullah and his followers, and so many people, it's not only about mullah and his followers. There's so many people like me, like you in the society
Who can get riled up.
who thinks that they are right, they are doing the right job. How could, so a mullah just come up with some kind of statements, and everybody gives him a weightage. And even today, if you see after the attack on Ahson Iqbal Saab, you just go and see the Twitter account of the same mullah, and you would see kind of, he hasn't named anybody, but the kind of messages he's disseminating after that. I'm not talking about before the attack. Just go and look closely what kind of messages he's disseminating through his Twitter account. He has no fear whatsoever. He knows that he has a weapon in his hand. Nobody could challenge. Even, the first reactions of the ministers from the government side, he's a very good Muslim, he never committed blasphemy, blah, blah, blah. So, as a person, as a citizen, do I need to justify myself? Do I need to qualify in front of somebody to be a good Muslim?
It seems to be the case.
Even for the and have you seen the latest video of that guy, the investigative video? The police is investigating him, and the kind of words he has been using, that Data Sahab came into his dream, and then Ilyas Qadri, and even he's talking about Hazrat Ali, that they used to come into his dream and they ordered him to attack, the minister. So we are living in this kind of society where ignorance is being appreciated. People who have, you just need a group of people behind you, and you just need to use religion as a weapon, and there's no stoppage. Nobody, even we have seen that state, what they have done. There's so many people, almost 7 people got killed. There were so many journalists, they were tortured. Not even a single case registered against Khadim Rizvi and his followers. And even, when courts, they were asking Punjab government, we want you to arrest this guy. They say, we have an agreement with him. We can't arrest him. So I just need 200 people at my back and a weapon in the name of religion, whatsoever that is, and I can attack Islamabad, and I can go, escape. I will go escape free. Nobody would, even dare touching me. I can, destroy metro buses stations. I can attack former interior minister's home. I can kill people. I can attack police. I can attack journalists. I can thrash their DSNGs, and there is nobody to stop me. And afterwards, there's nobody even to register a case against me. So we are living in this kind of Pakistan and this kind of narrative. Ahson Iqbal Sahab talks a lot about narratives. So just look what happened. A simple guy from a small village.
From his constituency.
So you can see whose narrative is being dominated in this country. Khadim Hussain Rizvi's narrative. Interior Minister who has been saying that I have done marvelous in Narowal, kind of huge developments in Narowal, new hospitals, new roads, but nobody is ready to listen to him when it comes to religion, when it comes to a particular kind of narrative. So it's very disturbing. We need to, and PMLN, I would give some kind of blame to PMLN, because, they used to use this religion as a weapon against their political opponent. I'm not talking about maybe 2 decades ago, 1 decade ago. So I really, really, really hurt by the attack, but what goes comes back. So, the state of Pakistan and the military establishment, they need to understand that this is not the way it's going to be normal in this country. We'll have to control whether it's a radicalization in the name of blasphemy, whether it's a terrorism in the name of Sharia, whatsoever that is.
Or sectarianism.
Only state can use violence. Nobody else in this country, or even in a civilized country, is allowed to use the violence. And don't allow these people to use social media. And you have seen what happened last week. Punjab government, After National Action Plan, there was a ban on loudspeaker, that you could use loudspeaker only for one side on the masks. So after last week, Punjab government, they allowed once again that these mullahs, they have loudspeaker on the four sides of the masks. So this was one of their demands. We are talking about attack on Interior Minister, your Chief Minister, he allowed that. Your Punjab Assembly, they allowed that, and even only a week back. So you need to have a political will. I know there are elections. I know PMLN's constituency has always been right wing. Chaudhry Nisar has already mentioned that a few days back, and they have their problems. They can't go behind these forces, because you have already seen what happened in Lahore in those by-elections when Kulsoom was contesting. They were third on the tally when it comes to the votes. So yes, they have so many political problems, and the establishment on the other hand, they may be enjoying the situation, because right now PMLN, they are facing everything. Even their political opponents, they may be enjoying, because PMLN facing the burnt. And we have seen in 2013 Pakistan People's Party, in the name of TTP and their violence, they were unable to go to the people to
Canvas.
even during the elections. I see the same pattern for PMLN in the coming elections. I don't think their leadership would dare going out in this kind of situation where somebody can hurl shoe on you. Even we have seen what happened with Khwaja Asif when he was Minister for our Foreign Affairs in Sialkot. Somebody threw
Black ink on his
black
face.
ink on his face. Ahson Iqbal was attacked with the shoe only a couple of months back.
Yeah, but
So-
a shoe turns into a bullet, that's far more dangerous.
Yes, even shoe. You need to stop it. Nobody can hurl a shoe on somebody, because something is been cooking in his mind that this guy is a blasphemer. He has nothing to prove his point. He is not even somebody who is important. I'm not saying important, but he is not even literate in so many words. He does nothing. He's a kind of, he wanders here and there, and he is going to decide that this guy is blasphemer, and he attacks. And now he's using, what he's been using, the kind of religious, justifications for that. So it's really disturbing, and this new pattern of radicalization in this society, which is going to engulf the central Punjab, which is the most, the whole of the country, but the most, easily it's going to engulf central Punjab.
That's a very, very worrying and distressing picture that you've painted on, but I couldn't disagree with you. Let's talk about the confession of the assailant, sir. He confessed to opening fire on the minister over the issue of Khatme Nabuwat. Now, that issue had already been settled. Not only settled, but Ahson Iqbal really didn't have anything to do with that issue, because it was not his concern. It was not he was not the law minister. He was not in any way concerned about the change in that wording of the Khatme Nabuwat.
But see, theoretically speaking, yes, it has been settled. I mean, the law has been changed. But I believe that this issue is still simmering under the surface. And the talk is still going on, the debate is still going on in religious circles, and particularly those who are holding the flag of blasphemy in their hands. So we need to rethink the whole phenomena. I mean, the religious scholars and the political people, they must sit together and find a permanent solution to it. Otherwise, it could be used as a weapon, as it has been used in the past. And it is very easy to blame
So what does the
someone.
law say about false blasphemy accusations? Or there is nothing that the law covers as far as false allegations is concerned?
I think the law does treat it, but we need to be very clear on this. And there have been investigations in the past, in Punjab particularly, where some people, they were trying to settle scores with their rivals, political rivals.
That's
as well.
mostly the case, sir.
Yeah, it's being used as a tool, as a weapon. So therefore, I think it is very important for the government, for the religious people, the scholars, they should put their heads together, and they must think a new strategy to get rid of this phenomena, and to have a society which is tolerant and which thinks with reason and rationale. And rather than, it should not be allowed to be dominated by religious sentiments in such a fashion.
And that also misguided religious sentiments,
Misguided,
because
and
the
it's
religion
very
does not ask any person to go and kill other people, sir.
the issue of blasphemy is a very sensitive one, and I think it could be exploited by anyone. And this has been happening here. You know, many people were killed and they were lynched in our society, unfortunately.
Yes, sir, the
on
Mashal
this-
Khan case is in
exactly,
point.
on the basis of this. So we need to be very cautious and careful, because the elections are around the corner, and if this card is played by some people, some circles against their political rivals, it will be very difficult to stop the bloodshed, and violence can erupt in various constituencies of Pakistan, and the entire exercise of election could be in serious danger and jeopardy. So therefore, it is important. I think that this is high time that all the religious political parties and the government of Pakistan and other scholars, they must come on the same page. They must sit and find out a solution to it, because intolerance, religious intolerance is very, very dangerous, and it could engulf the entire political exercise in Pakistan. The elections, for instance, one of the ministers, important minister, the interior minister, has been attacked, and now the questions are being raised by common people that if religious minister, the minister of interior is not safe, then who else? I mean, who else would be safe in this country? The common people, they are worried about it. So I believe that this is the time for all of us, for the people who are at the helm of affairs, the religious people and the political leadership. They must join hands. They must get together to find a solution to it, and they must try to curtail the intolerance that is on the rise. And they must not allow this slogan to be used against their political opponents. A solution has to be found, otherwise it is going to get out of control. And you know, this is a very sensitive issue. It's people are sentimentally attached to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and if somebody is blamed that he has done it, that he's done a blasphemy, or he has indulged in blasphemy, he could be lynched on the roads. And this has happened in Pakistan, and this will be very, very dangerous. I think that the political parties must also think about it. The PMLN particularly, because the PMLN is the one who triggered this debate, you know, by changing the law. It may not have been by a design. It may have been unconsciously, unwittingly done. But, you know, the blame is squarely put on PMLN that they were responsible for changing law. And now this snowball effect is there. I think the PMLN must be very, very cautious and careful about it, and they must clear this misperception about them, that they are the ones, you know, the scientists.
Well, sir, just to add to that discourse, interestingly, according to the statistics that I have been going through, the largest community of people that has been a victim of the blasphemy law are Muslims.
Are Muslims.
They are, yes.
How about that, sir?
Yes, yes. I think, you know,
There are very few Hindus or people belonging to other religions in Pakistan that are accused of blasphemy. It's mostly Muslims accusing other Muslims of doing so.
I think the analysis must be made as to what were the motives. And many of the investigations that were carried out by police and other investigating agencies, they have come to the conclusion that the motives were not religious.
Interestingly, sir, if you really go back into the history of the blasphemy law, it was made by the British in the 1920s, if I'm not wrong, and that was because they wanted to control religious strife between Hindus and Muslims.
Exactly.
So when Pakistan came into being a Muslim country, what was the reason to have a blasphemy law? Because now that same law is being used against Shias, Sunnis, all kinds of sects are using that law against each other now. So
I think,
what was the great
the idea
foresight
was,
that the people who were making those laws have?
It's true, but you know, this trend of using blasphemy as a tool to settle scores with your political rivals or your religious rivals, or people who are different, believe in a different sect of different sect or different set of beliefs. This was actually used as a weapon. The law was there. and it should have been genuinely used. If somebody had really committed blasphemy, then he ought to have been punished under the law that existed. But now when it is being used as a tool, a political tool or a religious tool to settle scores with your rivals, then it's very unfortunate. And in Pakistan, the case is. And
Who do you think can correct this situation, sir? Because it seems that this has gone out of control, and now there is nobody that's going to be able to bell the cat in this case.
The people who are who believe and who profess to be the followers of this belief that blasphemy is a very, very serious offense, and the person who commits blasphemy needs to be killed, lynched, or he should be executed. And that needs to be changed. And I think scholars from other Muslim countries, you don't see these kind of things happening.
This law doesn't exist in
doesn't
any other
anywhere,
Muslim country,
any Islamic country.
in any Muslim country
Exactly.
in the entire world. Except
and
for this.
we never heard that this is happening in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia, in UAE and other Islamic countries. Only it is Pakistan where the blasphemy law, people are so sensitive to the issue of blasphemy, and where the blasphemy card is being played, where it has been used
to score political points.
Yeah. So therefore, the religious scholars from other countries must also invite it to enlighten people in Pakistan and to enlighten the religious circles in Pakistan that this law should be seen in its proper context and perspective, and it ought not to be used as a tool to settle scores or to punish other people or to actually promote your own narrow interests.
Yeah.
And once the people understand the gravity of the situation and the abuse of this blasphemy law is made clear to the common people, I think we might be able to reduce the intensity of this, the gravity of the situation.
Well, I hope so, sir. But let's also talk about another aspect of what happened in Narowal, sir. A man entered the gathering which was supposedly guarded by law enforcement,
huge security
agencies, security apparatus. A man with a 30-bore pistol walks into that gathering and is able to shoot the interior minister. What does that say about the state of our security apparatus?
But this is disappointing, and the way basically Chaudhry Ahson Iqbal, his interior minister, and the way he went there. I have talked to the police in Narowal. He didn't even, told them that I'm going to that political corner. So political meeting, corner meeting. So police was totally in a kind of unaware of the situation. He was only 5 minutes away from the venue when he told the local police that he's on his way. So he has a lot of security with him, but the place was not secured before he reached there. So he took advantage of that. So this also shows that being a political leader, yes, he's an interior minister, but being a political leader, sometimes you couldn't resist basically.
To be with the people.
Yes, which you need to be, because we have already seen what happened in Attock with the former Home Minister of Punjab. They attacked his, and he got killed in a terrorist attack.
Yes.
So we have seen this is happening, and if an interior, yes, they have already, basically they have suspended a local SHO, but somebody needs to question me as an interior minister as well. How could I bypass all those security protocols? I'm not blaming him. He's right now, he's a victim. He was attacked.
Well, on some good news coming out on his front, he has been moved from the ICU to his room.
That's
improving. That's a good thing. We are
good.
Happy that he has survived this attack and he is now on his road to recovery. We hope that he stays safe. Moving on, I'll ask you this question again on the TLYRA have issued a statement. Now, that is the interesting part, and they have condemned the attack. They say that this attack should not have taken place, and they demanded that the government now initiate a judicial inquiry into the attack. What does that really...
Look kind of language they are using. They are just like, they're using a language as they are in position of authority. This is something which...
Well, they further clarify that the TLYRA is a peaceful religio-political party that believes in change through political struggle and democratic processes.
We have seen, even you have seen how peaceful these guys are. We have seen what happened in Faizabad for 1 month, and they could thrash anybody. They were even, thrashing the passerby, passing by people, and even sometimes even women, they were being targeted with the stones. They were pelting stones and them. It's all about, once again, I would say it's all about the rate of the state and the kind of education we are imparting to our people. If we want to get rid of these kind of situation, because we have already seen one of our generation eaten up by that narrative which built by General Ziaul Haq about we are the fortress of Islam and we are going to, protect Islam anywhere in the world, whether it's Afghanistan. We went physically into Afghanistan. Then we have seen our people, they went to Chechnya, Bosnia, just name Iraq, Syria, Iran. You name the country where there's some kind of political religious conflict in Islamic country, and you don't have Pakistani footprint over there. So we have already seen one or two generation eaten up by that narrative. Now we have seen during last 1 decade or so, blasphemy has been mainstreamed in this country. It has been made a kind of big issue in this country. I remember that we used to laugh on these mullahs when I was a kid, and I'm not very old person, you can see. But when we say that they should, these all political religious forces, they should sit together and come up with some solution. Why would I come up with some kind of solution? I draw my power from this weapon. You think I would withdraw that? You think I am going to give you that power, give away that power? So you need to go somewhere else. State needs to exert itself, and not exert only by by the means of violence. You need to give good education to the people. You need to give them employment opportunities. I know state couldn't do that, but they can regulate. They can take industry to Narwal, and in all those areas where people like Abad Hussain, he's only 21 years old, and he has this kind of imagination where he has been serving the Almighty, and he attacked an interior minister, and the motives, he just want to go to the Jannah for the better place. Just let's decode it. So he's living in some kind of poverty. He's not literate. He doesn't have employment, and somebody just come over and just told him that you are going to be the one who is going to serve the Almighty. You just understand the kind of empowerment I would feel if I'm living in some kind of small village and somebody just tells me that I'm so empowered that even the Almighty needs my services. Feel this kind of
That is the real issue over here. This idea, sir, of Almighty needing the services of mortals to protect the Almighty,
but I think
that is a real big issue, sir.
In order to blunt this weapon, in order to eliminate this tendency, the best weapon is to educate people, to enlighten them that blasphemy is nothing so important. And nobody actually in this country, even if he's an ordinary Muslim, he's not a scholar, he's not a mullah, he's not a cleric, he does not commit any blasphemy against the Prophet, peace be upon him. And as a Muslim, most of the Muslims,
why would they do that, sir?
Why would they do that? And the huge majority, the mass majority of the Muslims in this country, they respect not only our Prophet, peace be upon him, but all other prophets.
Absolutely, sir.
And
that is what our religion teaches us.
And the books, the heavenly books, the prophets were those prophets who were bestowed with these books. Even we hold these books in high esteem. So therefore, it is unbelievable that a common person, a sane Pakistani Muslim, sane Pakistani citizen would commit blasphemy. It's always a cooked up charge. It is always fabricated, and it's a well-known fact. Investigations have revealed it to us. So I think that we need to educate people, those who are being used as a pawn, as a tool.
So what about strengthening the laws further by asking for solid evidence in cases of blasphemy?
That's one aspect, very important aspect, and that needs to be done by the state itself. The laws need to be changed, the investigative process need to be changed, and I think punishments have to be given. The Mr. Qadri, who was executed under the orders of the Supreme Court because Supreme Court gave verdict against him. But in these circles, some of the religious circles, this discussion is still going on, that one of the reasons that PMLN is facing a huge crisis, its leadership is in big trouble and is in bind, is because they executed a person who killed a blasphemer.
Which is not true,
Which
sir.
is not true. Which is not true, because
the governor of Punjab at the time, Mr. Salman Taseer, was not a blasphemer.
Exactly.
He was killed for no reason at all. He was basically supporting the lady who was accused of blasphemy.
Exactly.
And, he
And
said
this execution.
in fact, he said the same thing that you just said right now.
Yeah. And
That's
this
very dangerous, sir.
His execution, Mr. Qadri's execution was carried out under the order of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. But this is being exploited. So I think we need to give a very, very serious thought to it. How to blunt this weapon, how to neutralize this tendency of using the license that we hold, some people hold in their hands, to blame others of committing blasphemy and then execute them and then punish them themselves, taking law into your hands. That needs to be stopped. And another incident, the attack on the Interior Minister, is indicative of the fact that this tendency is on the rise.
Right.
And steps have to be taken to stop it, to stop this tendency to spread as wide as possible. So I think this is important, and the state has to play its role, also the religious people and the scholars, and I think the education system in this country needs to be reviewed, revisited, so that the people understand the real meaning of what blasphemy is. And also,
so when we are on the topic of blasphemy, there is a story, a parable which is narrated, which is a dialogue between, I think, Moses and God, which when Moses accused somebody of blasphemy, and then God spoke to Moses and said that you have no right to accuse anybody of blasphemy. It's between me and that individual.
Exactly. Interestingly, why these cases of blasphemy are not reported in other Islamic countries?
It's a good question, sir.
You know, it is only in Pakistan. And so in Pakistan, this is being used. I mean, this law of blasphemy, or it is being used as a license to kill people, to kill rivals.
Well, sir, just to add to the information for our general public, the doctors decided not to remove the bullet from Mr. Iqbal's body, and the bullet fractured his elbow and went through into his abdomen.
Yes.
So he had a very close call as far as this attack is concerned.
Yeah,
and we're thankful to God that he is safe.
He escaped, yeah.
Sir, let's move on to our second topic, which is also very important, and that is what is happening in Kashmir, sir. 10 Kashmiris, among them a professor, shot dead by Indian forces for protesting the murder of another 5 which took place earlier, sir. Again, words fail me, sir. I don't understand that. We've been talking about this issue for so long. The Hurriyat chief says words fail him as well, and he cannot express the pain of the tragedy that is unfolding in Kashmir right now. Why is the rest of the world sleeping on this, sir?
I think ever since
we've already gone over the interests, the self-interest of the country. We've already gone over the great market that India may provide, but life and truth are beyond these things.
This is very sad. I mean, the world is keeping its eyes closed on this human tragedy that's being unraveled in Indian-held Kashmir.
Right, sir.
Ever since Mr. Narendra Modi has come into power, his Kashmir policy has been to unleash repression against the innocent Kashmiris. And he thinks that through violence, through the state machinery, state apparatus, through the guns, he would be able to quash this uprising for the freedom of Kashmir, or the people who are struggling to get the right of self-determination, which has been promised not only by the Indian leadership itself, but the United Nations, and there are resolutions on this. And India is now trying to suppress Kashmiris through the use of violence and force. And massive human rights violations are being committed in Indian-held Kashmir. And Pakistan and other Islamic countries, OIC, have been demanding of the United Nations and the international community to send a fact-finding mission there and to find the truth there. And the Indian leadership, the Indian government is not allowing any fact-finding mission or fact-finding team to visit Kashmir. And they, on daily basis, dozens of people are being killed. The young people are being picked up from their homes.
Yes, sir. Just to give you an idea of the number of people, sir, in this year alone, 2018, this is the fifth month, 120 people have been killed.
So nowhere else in Pakistan, in the world, the people are being killed like this, and the world at large is keeping its eyes closed on it, and they are doing nothing. And Pakistan and the OIC and Kashmiris and other human rights
So these days the
organizations.
OICs are talking about the Rohingya issue in Myanmar.
But in Bangladesh, they also talked about Kashmir as well. They drew the attention of the international community to this human tragedy that is going on there. But it is very sad that, as you have rightly pointed out, the international community, because they have their own vested interest in India. It's a big market. It's a big country. And particularly the United States of America and the Western world gives a lot of weightage to India vis-a-vis Pakistan and Kashmir, and they have allowed Indians to use force and to use brutalities against the Kashmiris who are just asking for the right of self-determination, which has been promised by the first Prime Minister.
And denied to them for over 70 years.
Yes, exactly.
So it's an untenable situation. According to a police official, 30 people were injured in clashes with the government forces who fired live ammunition, pellet guns and tear gas. And we've had this pellet gun issue talked about over and over again in the United Nations, that pellet guns maim people, they make them, they maim them, they don't allow them to, they blind them and whatnot. So these guns were supposedly banned, or they were told not to use pellet guns, but we've seen that the pellet guns are still being used. A doctor at the hospital in Shopian said that hundreds of injured needed treatment. We have reached full capacity. We've run out of essential medicines. There are no ambulances anymore to bring the injured and the dead to the hospital. This is the situation that we are witnessing in Kashmir. Curfew has been ordered in Srinagar. Mobile internet services have been shut down in much of the disputed region. Doesn't this also indicate of the continued Indian brutality in Kashmir? Still, we are at that point where nobody seems to care.
Definitely. In fact, we are living in a totally changed world. During last 1 decade or so, we have seen this rise of right all over the world, and now with the American president, in power, and the way he is dealing with the world, the way he is giving license to different countries to kill innocent people in different regions. We have seen what he has done with Israel, what they're doing with the Palestinians. We have seen what he has done with the Saudis, what they have been doing in Yemen, and the same pattern we see in
Syria,
in Syria and Iraq, and now Kashmir is a totally different kind of issue. It has a long history, but the kind of pattern we have been seeing, the way Donald Trump trying to run this world. I'm using run this world because he has a new world order where he doesn't want anybody to defy his orders. We have seen what he has been doing with Iran. He is saying that they are going to
walk away from the nuclear deal,
from that treaty. So we are talking about UN resolutions on Kashmir. We have just seen only few years back the 6-7 countries of the most important countries of the world, they have had that agreement, and today he is saying that they are walking out of that agreement. All those other countries, they are trying their level best to keep him in that agreement, but he is failing the world basically. So on our part, definitely we have some trust deficits when it comes to the world. Yes, we need to understand, we need to admit that there are some trust deficits. Whenever there's some terrorist activities in India, they put blame on us, and we couldn't basically
absolve
ourselves from all those claims. So when it comes to this kind of situation, when we make noises, yes, we'll have to make, and we have been doing this since decades, but when you have trust deficit, even your closest ally like China, like Saudi Arabia, like Iran is not on your side. Even your closest allies, they are not on your side. And we are living in kind of region, three of our neighbors, they are not on our side.
Hostile.
China,
We are in a hostile environment.
we are in a hostile environment. And we need to understand why. It's not only that others are responsible for those hostilities towards us. So I don't want to,
According to Khaja Asif, as he said, that we need to put our house in order, and that
yes,
cannot be
definitely.
truer.
But Kashmiris, this is really indigenous movement. We need to stay away from that movement. This would right now word, they are really watching what's going on. It's not that they are not watching. You just go and see all those international media and newspapers, New York Times, Washington Post. I have seen stories today. They have, take that stories right very prominently. CNN, all of them. They are basically, it's not that they don't care about it, but the word establishment right now, it's totally changed. Right now, it's in the hands of all those right wing who just thinks everything in the business context. They don't see human rights. They don't see all those.
They don't see climate change either.
Yes, even they don't see climate change. So we are living in a very difficult situation and very difficult world where we don't have that much trust. So we'll have to come up with some kind of new strategies. So for me, just leave that to the Kashmiris to fight their war. They are really doing great. And the way they are fighting the oppressions of India, and now the world has been watching to them only because it has become a totally indigenous movement. You have mentioned that, Professor. If you see that case study, it's so kind of eye-opening. I have read stories on that guy. He has linkages in universities in London, universities in Kerala in India, and everybody is saying that India has failed today an educated person in Kashmir. We don't know what they're going to do with the others. He was associate professor of sociology, and he has linkages all over the world. He was doing his PhD, and you just read that story so, and kind of fascinating story in so many levels, that how that.
So what you're saying is that India itself is shooting itself in the foot.
Yes, I think definitely.
Whereas Kashmir is concerned, so we should just let that play out.
We just need to, you just need to bring the world attention towards that. We just need to play on the diplomatic fronts, on the international fronts.
And raise our voice for the Kashmiris.
Definitely.
That is the only thing that we should be doing.
We'll have to. That is one of the best thing we can do for the Kashmiris right now.
Thank you very much, auon. Thank you, sir, Jveed Sadiq, for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, we say please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard, but we hope and we pray that those in power take heed to the fact that the situation on the ground when people take the law into their own hands is an untenable one, and we would like that Pakistan it survives for our generations, and we don't want to see any kind of tragedy that might occur. With that hope and on that note, it's goodbye.